Hello everyone. So today I finally decided the weather was nice enough that I could actually do a proper video for the GTO. So let me go ahead and start out. This is a 1968 Pontiac GTO, and it is a real GTO. It has a Pontiac 400 under the hood. Engine was rebuilt about 10 to 12 years ago, and the bodywork was done on this about 8 years ago, I want to say. I believe it's about right. I have to go back and look. So the car was actually pretty decent when we got it. We first got the car back in 1998, 99. My mom had actually owned one of these brand new back in 68. She was watching, I think it was History Channel or something, and they were showing the top 10 muscle cars of all time. And on that list, number one was the Pontiac GTO. So she got the bug in her to say, hey, I want to go ahead and get another GTO. So she did some online checking, and she located this car in Shelbyville, Indiana. The car belonged to a guy who was actually a Mopar guy, strangely enough, and he just decided to sell the car. She went out there with my older brother and bought the car and drove it back here to Ohio. And my dad was actually out of town that week, and he came home and saw the GTO and said, hey, we didn't discuss this. Well, it stood, and my mom kept the car. So the car has had a good restoration on it. The engine base sheet metal was all replaced. A few patches on the body were done on the doors and the rockers, and I think on the trunk. But overall, it wasn't too bad. Though I think we think that the rear quarters were replaced at one point because the metal's a bit different. So let me pop the hood real quick. And this is actually an aftermarket reproduction hood because the other one was rotting out and so forth. So both wheel wells were replaced. Support was replaced, and it was pretty much a hack job. I'll throw up a link to the to my build thread when we were doing all for the engine work and the body work, and you can see some of the fun stuff that was there. So, as I said, this is a Pontiac 400. This is not the original Pontiac 400. We think the car was raced at one point, and once it was done being raced, they pulled all the good stuff out and just threw some stuff in. This motor is I believe is a 73 400 out of like a Catalina or Bonneville, something of that sort. The transmission is a 4-speed Muncie, and the rear end now is a 355 gear ratio, which is actually what would originally have come in this car when we looked at the paperwork on it. The car they had put in a different rear axle housing, and the gear set was, I think, 256. So it was great on gas mileage, but it was just not great to drive, not as fun. So the engine was rebuilt by Cammers in Huber Heights, Ohio. The block was left alone. Well, sorry, I should say the block was originally at 60 over, and now it's 90 over. That's a big number. And so if this engine gets rebuilt again, it's going to have to be sleeved. It's got a set of EdelbrockPerformer RPM heads. It's got an Edelbrock Intake and an Edelbrock carburetor. It has a Ram Air 3 cam that we got from, I'm trying to remember the name. begins with an M, the Mendels or something, Mullen maybe. But it's the original manufacturer who did all the ram air cams for Pontiac back then. It's got a 4-core radiator, so it helps cool nicely. It's got a set of Doug headers. So, oh, and I also replaced the distributor a while back to help out a bit, but it's an old car, carbureted, still has, cut that. So there we are. Suspension is a full Hotchkis suspension on this. Hotchkis sway bars, coil springs, and trailing arms. So the full setup, and it handles nice. Interior, when we got the car, it was, someone had painted or dyed the seats all white and everything, and actually did this dash pad in a white. And generally, GTOs came with a black dash pad, even though I have seen a blue convertible with a blue interior that had a blue dash pad. But from everything else I know, they're usually black. So this was a full interior kit, back to what would have been the original parchment colored interior for 68, which is the whitest you could go back in 68 on these cars. So we had that done, new seat buns. It feels much nicer. I still need to, I'm going to redo the dash at some point because put in an aftermarket radio there and it doesn't sit right, so I'm going to redo that at some point. But when we also had the interior redone, we actually liked the pad being a different color. Well, sorry, not being black. So we actually tried to get it to be parchment color, but the shop that was doing the interior, they couldn't get a hold of the material. We can only get the material that's on the reproduction panels and the seats and so forth, but they could not actually get a hold of the material in any amount that they could wrap the whole dash. So they just did it in another kind of pearl, and for the most part, you don't really see the difference. It kind of goes with the headliner and the visors a bit. So how about we start her up and take her for a drive?
To myself, what a wonderful world. What a wonderful world. wonderful world. Colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do. They're really saying I love you. What a wonderful world.
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please drop a like, leave a comment, or any questions you might have. And if it's your first time stopping by the channel, please subscribe. Thank you very much.